Welcome into NBA Now by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff, and we have a very jam-packed show to you on today's episode. LeBron James is only playing one more year in the NBA. Are the Rockets not going to move off any of their young assets? And not being moved, is that potentially going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo? I know there's been a lot of trade rumors surrounding the Greek Freak, but is he actually going to be staying put? Either way, make sure you do follow me on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff is my handle. I'm talking about the NBA all day over there, so make sure you go give me a follow on the X app. All right, let's get into the LeBron report, if you will, from Shams Charania, because he went on ESPN over the last 48 hours and dropped this quote that said, "My sense is next season could potentially be his last season in the NBA." And I know a lot of NBA fans are going to be sad when LeBron James ultimately calls it quits. I think if you are anybody who likes the game of basketball, I don't care if you're an MJ stan or a LeBron hater, the day LeBron James leaves the NBA is going to be a sad one. He's been the face of the league for 20-plus seasons. It's been absolutely incredible. And incredible is a word to describe LeBron's season in age 40-plus. He's been absolutely sensational at the start of the season for the Los Angeles Lakers, and it's the reason why the Lakers are overachieving, if you will, through the first 11 games of the season. I mean, when you look at LeBron's numbers, you're talking about what could be considered a career year for some players in the NBA. He's averaging 24 points, 9.5 assists, 9 rebounds, to go along with 50% plus shooting and a staggering 45.9% from three. He has improved his game as he ages to a more of a refined three-point shooter. Last season, he played 71 games and shot 41% from beyond the arc. He is playing at an MVP caliber level, and when you look at what Anthony Davis is doing as well this season, this might be the last hurrah for this Lakers kind of core, if you will, because of LeBron's age and whatnot. But when you think about Anthony Davis playing an MVP level, LeBron playing an MVP level, it looks like LeBron can actually play for 3 to 4 more seasons in the NBA. We knew that one of his goals was to always play with his son, Bronny James. Well, now that he's at least done that, even though Bronny doesn't really play at all on this team, but they've played at least 3-4 minutes together in that opener, you wonder if LeBron's love or aspirations to continue to play in the NBA are dwindling at this point. But either way, LeBron is still a top 10 player in the NBA and playing at an unbelievable level. And it's going to be sad that he is going to potentially be out of the league over the next 2 seasons if we take Shams Charania's report to heart. All right, we are moving on here, but I do want to get your opinion. Is LeBron James your GOAT? Now, I don't really care which way you lean, if it's MJ or LeBron, or maybe it's Kobe Bryant for all I know, but let me know if LeBron is your GOAT down in the comment section. Let's move over to the Houston Rockets now, because could they be keeping their young core rather than trading it off and trying to acquire a superstar like Giannis or maybe a Jimmy Butler, who we'll talk about later on the show? But Brian Windhorst went on ESPN and talked about the Rockets, says they aren't interested in trading much of their young core right now. Draft steal Tari Eason, for example, has been drawing attention for the past year, but has been labeled off limits, sources said. Same for the last year's lottery pick, Thompson. And Thompson wasn't just a lottery pick, folks. He was top 5 selection in that draft. And I find this report from Windhorst very interesting because they have a lot of young talent in Houston. They also have a boatload of tradable first-round picks. I believe it's close to 9 or 10 tradable first-rounders throughout the different deals they've made with James Harden and other players that have come through the organization. And when you look at how they've performed early in the season, they are a team that many thought could make the leap this season. But through 12 games, they're 8-4. They're 5th in the Western Conference. And you have to start to wonder, when do they cash in on some of these young players? When do they use those first-round picks that they can trade to go all in and make a deal to try to compete in the Western Conference right now, rather than just saying, hey, we'll let this young team kind of gel together and see what they can do as they grow together. No, when do you go out there and get that bona fide star that can take you to the next level? You have a movable contract in Fred VanVleet. You have the young players. You have the first-round picks. When do they go all in? We'll talk about that in just a second. But we do got to show some love to our sponsor on today's show, and that is Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform that can allow you to win up to 100 times your money right now with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. Say a player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup alive. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. You can make so many different selections. Think Steph Curry will get more than 4 3-pointers. Think Anthony Edwards will have more than 27 points. Cook up your hot takes with your friends and Prize Picks right now and turn your hoops knowledge into some serious cash. I got an entry for tonight like I do so often. I got 2 picks in basketball, but also one in the boxing industry. Yeah, Mike Tyson, more than half a total punches landed for his fight against Jake Paul tonight. If you're watching this before that, take advantage of that daily special and that nice little free square from Prize Picks. I also got less than on Victor Wembanyama, 25 points, going up against Anthony Davis and the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'll also go with more than 4.5 3-pointers made from Tyler Hero. He's been an absolute heater. Take advantage of the deal over at Prize Picks. Get started today and cash in on your knowledge. Like I said, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app, use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, as we move back into the conversation on the Houston Rockets, you talk about their young core, and a young core that is very, very talented. Jalen Green, now, I don't know if you can consider him part of the movable guys anymore because he's their leading scorer, averaging 20.8 points per game, and his athleticism is off the charts. He can get to the rim. He can get to a step-back jumper. He has been sensational this season. But when you look at the other players, Şengün is out of the question. Fred VanVleet's not part of the young core, but Tari Eason averaging 12.2 points per game. A Thompson, 10.9. Jabari Smith, a former third overall pick from a couple drafts ago, 10.5. And then you also got Cam Whitmore at 6.1 points per game, but also Reed Shepard, who was drafted third overall in this past NBA draft, only playing about 13 minutes a game, but averaging 3.6 points per game. But a lot of people, like myself, are intrigued with his long possibilities and potential because of how good he is at the defensive side of the ball and how he can shoot it, how he can really just be a glue guy on any contending team. They got something going over in H-Town. But like I said, when will they cash in? Because we've seen teams kind of let their young core play out and it not result in anything serious. Well, will Houston let that happen to them, or will they make a trade for a big-time star? And there's 4 stars that could be on the move this season. Giannis Antetokounmpo seems like the biggest pipe dream. I'm kind of unsure that he'll get dealt. I would probably lean no this season unless the Bucks really stink and are in like the bottom 4, bottom 5 of the Eastern Conference come trade deadline and Giannis asked out. If he ultimately gets moved, I would project it to be in the offseason. But Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram, and another Pelican and Zion Williamson are players that may be on the move this deadline because Ingram and Zion simply aren't working together in New Orleans. They've had a season from hell with the amount of injuries they've had. And Jimmy Butler, who's also injured right now with a sprained ankle, but that Heat team is underachieving pretty big time right now. Could they move him before he hits free agency this year, as it's expected that he's going to opt out and test free agency? It's going to be very intriguing to see how this ultimately plays out. But I think the Rockets should try to at least make a move on one of these guys. The one that makes sense the most to me is Jimmy Butler. You can offer 2 first-round picks plus one of your young guys, whether it's Jabari Smith Jr. or a Tari Eason, even though they said it's untradeable, for Jimmy Butler, get him to go with Fred VanVleet as well because it'd be matching salaries, and have Butler work around Jalen Green, Şengün, and some of their other young talent. I don't know. It makes a lot of sense for me since Jimmy Butler is from Houston. All right, make sure you are subscribed. NBA, NFL, college content every single day. We're inching closer and closer to 387,000 subscribers. Make sure you join the channel today because we have a great hosts here that break down everything in the sports world. Let's revisit this list here of potential stars on the move with Jimmy Butler, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the two New Orleans Pelicans, because there's been some reports on each of these guys that might be a little bit conflicting. And we'll start with Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, because ESPN, Brian Windhorst, and Tim Bontemps went on their network and said that they're not going to be making any early moves, and they're not going to overreact. They always came into the season with a patience in terms of letting this roster gel together, since the Rozier, Hero, Bam, Jimmy kind of core four have not played a lot of games together. Well, they're off to a rough start, 4-6. Butler's been hurt. Rozier's been horrible. Bam Adebayo has regressed. The only player playing worth anything over there in Miami is Tyler Hero, averaging 25 a game on 51% shooting and 46% from three. He's been awesome for them in the first 10. But it'll be intriguing because I say this, and most of you know I might host the Heat Report here by Chat Sports, and I'm a Heat fan, but it only makes a lot more sense for the Heat if they're 500 or below to really contemplate trading Jimmy Butler at the deadline in early February. Why? Well, he's likely going to opt out of his contract and go be a free agent this upcoming year. And why wouldn't the Heat, if they're not going to win anything, move off of him, recoup some assets, get a young player, and just kind of start their retooling of the roster then rather than in the offseason? Plus, there's no guarantee you get anything back from Butler, and even if you wanted to keep Jimmy, it makes no sense for this Heat team paying him 2 years, $113 million. So I do think the Heat could be willing to move off of him at the deadline if they continue to struggle. And Brian Windhorst on Giannis Antetokounmpo, as we talk about the Greek Freak here, Giannis trade is not a reality as of now. And I mean, to me, it makes both sense. And the conversation could be the same on Giannis and Jimmy Butler in terms of the trade. Why would both the Bucks or Miami Heat want to trade their superstars this early in the season? It makes no sense for them to do so. One, because you'd likely get a better package in return at the deadline because, well, deadlines make deals, and you could get a bidding war between some teams. And specifically in Giannis's case, he hasn't requested a trade. Yes, it's a disaster in Milwaukee right now, but it doesn't make sense to trade him if he doesn't request a trade, because he's one of the top 5 players in this league. And if you're starting a franchise, I know Giannis is approaching 30, but you're still going to have Giannis be probably picked in the top 5 to 7 guys in the association due to how hard he plays on both ends and how much of a physical freak he is. Like, you're not just openly going out there and trading Giannis. He has to request a trade, and unless he does so, the Bucks aren't going to make a move off of the Greek Freak. Before we get out of here, let me get your answers on this question. Who is more likely to be dealt before the deadline this season in February? Type GA if it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. Type JB if it's Jimmy Butler. Let me know your thoughts on which star player is more likely to be traded. Mine is pretty simple. It's Jimmy Butler, and you might have been able to guess that pretty easily based off the way I've spoken about each situation here over the past 4 or 5 minutes. But to me, it makes a lot of sense for the Heat to trade Jimmy if they don't turn around their season. And Giannis is not likely to request a trade anytime soon. Maybe he does in the offseason if the season continues to go bad or their first round exits for the second straight season in the postseason. We'll see, but I don't really see it going that way for Giannis, so I would be typing my JBs. Like I said off the top, make sure you follow me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff, talking about the NBA every single day, and we'll react to any type of trade rumors or news out there. So go give me a follow, and I'll see you with a video probably next week around the NBA. So see you then.